And welcome, everybody. Welcome to our weekly live stream. Pam Case, senior producer for The Huckabee Show, is here in the theater with me. She's going to be reading the questions that we do expect that you will be sending. We'd love you to send those questions in a chat. If you want to send them in a super chat, you get more visibility. We've got moderators watching the chat for your questions. We'll get to as many as we can. But if you don't already know this, subscribe. There's a button there. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Be sure and leave a comment, like our little conversation, and share it with others. Especially share it right now as we're just getting started. But before we get underway, here's a question for you. With inflation out of control, even before Russia invaded Ukraine, do you think it was the right move for the U.S. to sanction Russian oil? Be sure to tell me in the chat. I hope you'll do that. We have a lot of ground to cover because there's a lot going on in the world, and of course a lot of it has to do with Ukraine, which we're going to get to in just a little while. But this has also been a week in which the Biden administration is using what's going on in Ukraine to blame everything that's been going wrong in his administration for the past year and 2 months. Now here's a great example. Joe Biden says that loosening regulations on American energy producers won't lower energy prices. In fact, he has a better idea. Watch what it is.
Loosening environmental regulations or pulling back clean energy investment won't, let me explain, will not lower energy prices for families. But transforming our economy to run on electric vehicles powered by clean energy, with tax credits to help American families winterize their homes and use less energy, that will help.
Yeah, that'll do it, Joe. I mean, that's all we got to do is go buy an electric car. They're only $60,000 on the low end, up to $120,000, $130,000. So why didn't every American family just go out and get them an electric car? Well, number one, they can't afford them. And number two, there aren't that many electric cars that are available. And number three, even if you could buy an electric car and you could afford it, like Stephen Colbert, who makes $16 million a year, boasted the other night that he doesn't care what gasoline costs because he drives a Tesla. Well, if you're such a snob about it all, that's just beautiful. But even if you could afford your electric car, where are you going to charge the doggone thing? And if you got to go more than a few hundred miles, you got time to stop and plug it in for several hours while you let it charge up? I mean, the whole thing is such nonsense. I just know this. Before Joe Biden became president, we were energy independent. A year and a couple of months into his administration, and people are having to sell a kidney to go put gas in their tank. And he says, oh, it's not his fault. No. And all we need to do is just to convert to green energy and buy electric cars, and that'll help. That'll just solve it all. Folks, I don't even know hardly what to say, but I'll tell you, the American people aren't stupid as he thinks they are. The other day, Will Cain from Fox and Friends was at a diner in Ohio and talked to a young man by the name of Sergio and asked him about this whole buy an electric car idea.
Quickly, I want to introduce you to Sergio here, because the other big issue today is gas prices. And Sergio, you were just telling me, you know, they say it's easy, gas prices are going up, buy an electric vehicle. Not so easy in your mind.
No, I mean, who can really afford it? I mean, they're so out of touch with reality, it's just ridiculous anymore. So, I mean, just live your life, just seeing what's going on over there. It helps us realize how lucky we truly are being, you know, here in America, even with the turmoil happening. It's,
right.
You know.
Right.
So here's Sergio just sitting in a diner eating sausage and pancakes, and he has better sense about what's going on than the President of the United States, for heaven's sakes. What can you do? I mean, it's just, it's...
I'm at a loss.
I am too. I really am. I think Sergio ought to be president, not this guy. I'll tell you what was interesting. This week, Elon Musk, who sells more electric cars than anyone, and who really designed the kind of the quintessential high-end version of the electric car, the Tesla, even though it would be to his detriment, he said, I think we ought to be drilling for oil and getting our own energy. It would help us. It helps our economy. I got to tell you, the more I know about Elon Musk, the more I like the guy.
Yeah.
You know, he's brilliant. Nobody doubts that. But he's just got more of a sense of perspective about the world and people, seems to really have an understanding. Maybe Elon Musk needs to run for president. Elon, if you're watching the live stream, I'm sure you are, of course, because you got nothing else to do.
Somebody share it with him.
Hey, yeah, be sure and let him know. I'll help run your campaign. I mean, it would be a fascinating thing. He's got lots of skills. Anyway, this week, talking about electric cars, Steve Doocy from Fox News, in the White House press briefing, I think asked maybe the best question of Press Secretary Jen Psaki I've seen in a long time. Watch.
We're pushing electric vehicles today. This is a president who always talks about the power of our example. Does he own an electric vehicle?
Presidents of the United States don't do a lot of driving.
He's posted videos where he's revving the engine of his Corvette in Wilmington. He owns cars.
And he also has driven electric vehicles as president, as to give a model to the rest of the country.
Does he own one?
I think the president's record on this is clear, Peter. Presidents of the United States, current and when they are no longer, typically are not doing a lot of driving.
Yeah, his record's really clear on this. He's a hypocrite. He wants you to buy an electric car, but he doesn't have one. And as Peter pointed out, he does own cars. He's real proud of his cars that he has up in Delaware. Maybe that's why he goes up there every weekend, so he can drive around in his car. I don't know. Maybe it's a kiddie car. Could be like one of those you put a quarter in at Walmart and drive that. But he owns cars, and he's been photographed, you know, sitting in them and riding in them and driving them around. But he doesn't have an electric car. He just wants everybody else to get one.
I'm envisioning Hot Wheels and tracks, but okay, whatever.
But I thought it was a very legitimate question to say. If this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, you got one? No, he doesn't drive cars. You know what he does drive? Gas-guzzling SUVs, and that vehicle that presidents ride in called, the nickname for it is the Beast. It gets like 2 miles per gallon.
Yeah.
Now, I don't begrudge him, and that's not his doing, because that's a lot of security stuff built into the car. Basically could withstand the force of a significant bomb. So I don't blame him for the poor gas mileage. But, you know, if it's all that good for us, maybe an electric presidential vehicle should be the thing. And if it can only get him certain distance and then he has to plug it in, then by golly, it's what he wants for us. Why not? Hey, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell and leave us a comment. Also, a like, and share it with people, with everybody. Hey, share it with the White House. I wish they were listening to what we were talking about today. It might be worthwhile. We got any questions coming in yet?
Oh, yes, we do.
Well,
Rodney,
good.
Let's start with Rodney Bagley today. How much stock do you think Biden and Pelosi have in electric cars?
Whoa.
Hello.
That's a great question. Maybe I need to get word to Steve, not to Steve, but to Peter Doocy, Steve's son, and say, Peter, here's one for you that goes along the line of asking about, do you own an electric car? How much stock do you have in electric cars or motor companies? Fascinating. Good one.
Excellent question.
Yeah.
Jennifer Ward is asking, we can quit pretending that he's president, right?
Well, he's sitting there.
He's sitting there.
I don't know who's writing the speeches. It ain't him. He's muddling through them, so I'll give him credit for at least standing there and getting through. But that's about as far as I can go. And sometimes it's so mushy in terms of what he's saying, I can't understand it. I'm thinking, put the mask back on. It makes the same amount of sense either way.
All right, let's hear from Jay Luther, a regular on our live stream. Hi there, Jay. Do you think, Governor, banning trading in any stock market or commodity market for all of Congress and executive branch and judicial branch would be appropriate, and would it also serve as term limits?
It very well may, because a lot of these people might decide, I can't do my own investments. I don't want to stay. I do think that if people are going to be in a position where they could have access to inside information, it's probably a great idea to say that they cannot control their own stocks and bonds, that they have to put it in a blind trust upon election and allow someone to manage it for them. They're not aware of what's being bought and sold, and they cannot communicate with that person and say, hey, this would be a really good time to unload General Motors, or hey, better buy some Disney stock this week because we just made a deal in Congress that hadn't been announced yet. That's insider trading. Martha Stewart went to prison for it, and other people have. Maybe we ought to put some people in Congress in prison for it. Look, there's no way that some of these people to go to Congress can become multimillionaires on their congressional salary. And then when you look at where their financial interest comes, it's from, I mean, unbelievable return on certain stocks. It's like when Hillary Clinton turned $1,000 into $100,000 on cattle futures back in like 1980. I mean, does anybody honestly believe that Hillary Clinton was an expert on cattle futures? Really? I don't think so. And nobody ever bought that. But of course, she didn't get in any trouble for it either. It's crazy.
Go figure.
Okay. I want to go to a second set of some truly interesting videos. First of all, NBC News doing a little fact checking about this idea of inflation being nothing more than Putin's price hike. That's how the White House is trying to spin it. But even NBC can't swallow something this preposterous. Watch.
Today, President Biden responding, saying he's fighting to bring down prices, blaming inflation in large part on what he calls Putin's price hike. But prices surged last month almost entirely before Russia invaded Ukraine, and inflation has been soaring above 5% since last May. Republicans blasting the president.
Gas is over $4 a gallon. And what does Joe Biden say? He said it's all blamed on Russia. Energy prices have been going up dramatically from the day he took office.
So there you go. It has nothing to do with Vladimir Putin. It has to do with Joe Biden. And Biden has found an easy mark to say, oh, this is Putin's fault, man. It's Russia. It sounds like what we heard all during the Trump years. Russia, Russia, Russia. It's all Russia's fault. And the truth is, this is not because of Putin. Putin's an evil guy. He's not even just a neutral. He is evil. He's a thug. And I think he is the personification of outright evil. I mean, to do the things that he's doing in Ukraine, targeting maternity hospitals, for gosh sake, old people's homes, civilians, apartments with little kids in them. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that Hitler did. And I really believe he's the worst, probably, national leader since Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
So let's not give any kudos to Putin. Call him what he is. But the fact is, he's responsible for a lot of bad stuff. Inflation here in the U.S. is not really his doing. However, that's the new word at the White House. And if you don't believe it, let me drop a few sake bombs on you to prove it. So here is Jen Psaki answering a question as to does she still stand by the statement that inflation is just this little temporary bump in the road.
And we just heard you say again that you think inflation is going to be temporary. We've heard you say that it was going to be temporary since last spring. So how long do you guys think temporary is?
Yeah, how long is temporary? It's hard to say. Well, I'll tell you what, Jen Psaki's answer is jaw-dropping, because in her world, things are actually getting a lot better. And it's so crazy that even CNN, of all people, couldn't take it anymore. Watch.
Well, there are a number of steps we've taken. If you compare month to month, we've seen inflationary pressure or inflationary numbers go down month to month.
Month over month, up 0.8%. That shows that even month to month, inflation is accelerating.
Yeah, that's right. It's accelerating. It is not going down or going up and down. It is going up. Folks, when you lost CNN on the left, you've lost it. And that's what's happened at the White House. It's almost like Jen Psaki is saying, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? I mean, to look at those numbers, I know what they say, but by golly, that can't be right. Here's what I want someone at Twitter or Facebook to explain. How come they're not getting banned for disinformation? Because if there ever was an absolute intentional campaign of misinformation and disinformation, it's coming from this White House. All right, here's another. This is Jen Psaki dropping this little bomb on us. The inflation impact. How big a deal is it? Here's what she thinks.
There's something you want to point to that's what the White House is doing to provide short-term relief, like immediate relief to the rising costs?
I would say that a huge part of what we've done has had an impact already.
It sure has had an impact. At least that was an honest statement. Now, she didn't say it was a positive impact, because had she said that, that would have been a whopper bigger than anything that's ever been sold at Burger King. No, what she said was it's had an impact. And if you don't think it has, have you bought groceries lately? Are they the same price that you were paying a year and a half ago? What about gasoline? Not on your life. I mean, it's now, I think the national average is what, $4.30 a gallon, something like that. We used to laugh at people in California for paying less than that, but you know, when it was getting up near $4, it was like, man, why do people in California still live there and pay that kind of gas? Now you'd be lucky if you can get that $4 a gallon gasoline.
Oh, out California saw a price $6.99, right at $7 a gallon out west. Yeah.
No kidding.
No. Yep.
I think I'll just stay home, you know,
Safe,
don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Why would you? Hey, we've said it before. I'm going to say it again. Hit the subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. It's right there on your screen. And be sure and leave us a comment. A like and share the page with other people. Friend or foe, it doesn't really matter. Just share it with them. We want as many people as possible to join with us here on the live chat.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, let's
Pam,
go.
got some more questions?
Absolutely. So David E. Miller is asking, why can't MiGs be sent to a non-NATO country that is a Western ally so that they can be sent to the Ukraine?
It makes no sense why we're not sending those MiGs. Now, here's the interesting thing. The mixed signal that came, because you had the Defense Department and the State Department saying, yes, we're going to do that, and then Biden comes out and says, no, we're not. So even within the administration, they can't get their story straight. Here's what doesn't make sense. Biden's rationale is, oh, I don't want to give those, help supply the MiGs. It's not, they're not ours. They would be coming from Poland. What would happen is we would be replenishing them with some F-16s. So we're not even giving them. But Biden says, oh, that might provoke Putin. Provoke Putin? First of all, who cares? Secondly, how do you provoke a guy who's already bombing nursing homes and maternity hospitals? Is there a fear that he might use chemical weapons and biological weapons and, God forbid, a nuclear weapon? Of course there's a fear. But I hope you understand that Putin is not a guy that's sitting around and thinking, they may have some more fighters. I think I'll push the button on the big red one and we'll vaporize half of the known world. Putin's going to do what Putin's going to do. The only thing that's going to stop him is a power that's stronger than him. I don't suggest for a moment, and I don't take lightly the idea that we could get into a major conflict that could just erupt all over the world. I'm very, very concerned about that. And I don't think anybody is suggesting that we send American fighters to Ukraine and put boots of American soldiers on the ground. By the way, the Ukrainians have not asked for that either. They've never said, would you please send your army into Ukraine? They haven't. All they've said was, would you please give us javelins, stingers, ammo, tanks, and planes, specifically these MiGs from Poland. That's what they want. They want the tools to be able to fight the Russians themselves. And Pam, I'll tell you, the stories that are coming out of Ukraine are stunning. Yeah. You're hearing about people who are in their 80s who are grabbing weapons and fighting off Russians. Young children, I say children, they're in their teens, and they're taking up arms. And every male who is anywhere between teenage years and long past retirement consider it their moral duty to fight back and to stop the aggression. I don't think Russia saw that coming.
No, I agree.
Okay.
Richard Redmond is asking, Governor, today, can you confirm that Putin is taking out bioweapons labs?
No, I can't. I don't know. I've heard stories, and I've heard it both ways. I've heard that he's that Ukraine had some, and Putin is going in to get them. Then I've heard others say, no, this was something that dates all the way back to 2005, and they're not biolabs in the sense of producing chemical or biological weapons. They were actually doing research, but for the fear that it could lead to something, they're trying to shut them down within Ukraine. What are the facts? I got to be honest. I could tell you what I think, but I only want to stick to what I know, and I don't know.
Wanted to mention this earlier when we first started. We talked about the sanctioning of Russian oil. Was that a good move? And the poll with over 200 votes, 67% say yes, and 32% say no.
Yeah, I personally think that it was a good idea. Will it affect our prices? It could temporarily, but what would affect our prices in a positive way, bringing the prices down, is it's not just to say, okay, you can turn the spigots on for the next 30 days. You can't do that. You have to make a long-term commitment to exploration. So this idea that, oh, well, we'll just open up our pipes and flow oil for a while, doesn't work like that. What we have to have is a commitment from the administration that they're going to stop their war on fossil fuels. And by the way, you know, when I hear young people, whether it's Greta Thunberg, the little, where's she from, Norway or Sweden?
You're right.
Somewhere, some Scandinavian country, and the one that, you know, says, how dare you? And now she's become this celebrity, like somehow we're supposed to listen to a 12-year-old. But when I hear young people chide us for how dare we use fossil fuels, I say, fine, let's get rid of all the fossil fuels, but you go first. Most of the clothing that you guys wear is synthetic. Where do you think that comes from? Rayons and various synthetic fibers. From oil, that's where it comes from. Oh, by the way, your smartphone, it's got to go, because you know how much oil is in all of this? Plastics and all the things that go into the making of a phone, your car, your computer, a lot of stuff that you just take for granted. I guess you're going to have to give that up. And no longer will you be given a ride to school. You'll have to walk, because you wouldn't want to be riding in one of those gas-guzzling school buses or have your mom take you in her SUV. By gosh, no. Let's get rid of that. Just walk to school. I used to walk to school or ride my bike. And my parents used to walk uphill in the snow both ways. You know, they really
We all heard that story.
We all heard that story. It wasn't quite that bad for me, but we walked to school and didn't think a thing about it because we had to go, and that was how we got there.
Exactly
So
right.
I think it's a great idea.
Still time to share and be part of the conversation this afternoon, so make sure you do that with someone you like, even someone you think that needs to hear what we have to say today. Linda Edwards, by the way, Governor, says, I would like to know if you already knew about Marjorie Taylor Greene buying stocks before Putin even entered Ukraine. And what do you think about that? This viewer today says, I think she may be a rhino herself, made millions.
I'm not aware of what that is. I don't know, because I have not heard anything about Marjorie Taylor Greene buying. And what kind of stocks? I mean, any particular stock? I don't know. And I'm not trying to defend her, but I cannot even join in on that conversation because I know nothing about what stocks that she owns or when she bought them.
Yeah,
I just
you've
don't
got
know.
some facts, throw them in the chat.
Sure.
We'd be interested
We'd
to
love
hear
to
more
hear
about
those.
that. Thank you. Rex Williams is saying, am I the only one that thinks that the Biden clan is in the back pocket of Russia and China? These people are traitors, in my book. Wow.
Well, that's subtle, Rex.
Tell us what you really think.
Yeah. You know, I don't want to go so far as to say that they're traitors. If it's proven that they are, then Rex will be right. But I do think that they are compromised, totally compromised, because look at Hunter Biden's business dealings, not just in Ukraine with Burisma, for which he was making millions of dollars, but he also had Russia deals going, and his big money, his really, really big money, was with the Communist Chinese Party and those business dealings that he did there. A lot of that has been exposed. If you've not read Miranda Devine's really stunning book called Laptop from Hell, she's the New York Post reporter that has spent about a year really understanding what was on that laptop. So this isn't somebody who thinks he did something. This is excerpt from his laptop. It's pretty stunning. So yeah, there's some real compromise on the part of the Biden family. And it would be worth, if that's an interest to you, that's the best source I can think of to get it.
James Garrett mentioned, too, when we were talking about the sanctioning earlier, that they should have come up with a backup plan and get the oil flowing here in Canada and the U.S. to cover all the bases.
a lot of the oil in the North America certainly comes from Canada. You know, we also have ANWR. We have so much in Alaska. It's a huge repository. But we have a lot in New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas. Yeah, we got oil and gas, a lot of it in Arkansas. The big Fayetteville shale play has produced an enormous level of natural gas. And, you know, there's a huge called the Bakken shale in North Dakota that has barely been tapped. And it's huge. Here's the thing. We have unbelievable amounts of energy under our feet right now. The amazing thing is we probably have a whole lot more that we haven't even discovered yet. And 20 years ago, before fracking, a lot of it was considered to be unrecoverable. And then the technology of hydraulic fracking came into place. I remember I was governor, and one of my appointees to the State Oil and Gas Commission told me, he said, there is a new technology that is just being developed that will transform and revolutionize oil and gas. And I said, well, what is it? He said, it's called fracking. And he explained, they go down into the depths and then they horizontally drill rather than all vertical drilling, which is traditional drilling. This is horizontal drilling. So once they get down, they can go in all directions. And he said that the potential for this is absolutely staggering. I didn't think that much about it. I thought, well, okay, you know, he was an oil and gas guy, so that made sense that he would know something about it. And it wasn't 2 years later, but by golly, hydraulic fracking had become the new technology to get oil and gas out of the ground, and made billionaires out of people who got in early. Wish I had, but you know, that's a whole nother story. I didn't have any money to invest at the time, and probably wouldn't have, based on the idea that if I had information like that, I wouldn't have felt that it was appropriate to jump on it and use it like that.
So the question I have then, how quickly can we stop our dependence outside of the U.S. and turn that spigot on and give us what we need right now?
It would take several months up to a year. However, it would happen much more quickly, and the prices would be seen much more quickly if the administration simply said, we are not going to try to keep our promise to shut down fossil fuels. Now, Biden said that all through the campaign. Many times he's on record of saying to crowds, we're going to end fossil fuels. So that has a chilling effect upon an industry when you have to make investments of equipment and pick places to do exploration. If you think the government's going to come in and regulate you out of business and make it impossible for you to make a profit, you just don't do the drilling. So it's more than saying, yeah, you can drill for the next 30 days. It's can you drill for the next 30 years? Because it's a long-term commitment, and when that happens, it could be much sooner than a year.
I get the feeling that what Sandra Sprint's talking about here could be universal. She says, I didn't realize that when Biden was elected that meant that we were going to be governed by a committee. Sanders, AOC, and her bunch, and Pelosi. Can we survive long enough to fix this, Governor?
If we can get until November and get rid of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer in leadership positions in the House and Senate, it will go a long, long way, because they can make sure that really crazy legislation doesn't get passed, and they will control the ability to hold hearings and subpoena people, get answers for information. We're almost out of time. Got one more quick one?
One more. Any updates on COVID? Seems like the numbers are looking better.
Yeah,
Shelley's
all over the
asking
place
today.
Yeah. You know, mostly COVID is going more and more to the lower end. I know in Arkansas, where I live, they've had the lowest numbers, I think, since the beginning of the pandemic. So, you know, those are good signs. The TSA just announced it's going to keep the mask mandate for airports and airplanes for another 30 days. It's time to stop that. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
It's time.
Nobody knows better than you. You travel a lot.
Got to. Okay. Let's see.
I've got one more.
Okay,
Let me throw one in there. Do you think that what we are experiencing right now with inflation, gas prices, et cetera, is this only the beginning?
It is, if we keep on the same direction with the same administration that we have. So let's hope not. Hey, if you wonder, how does Joe Biden handle all these questions that come to him? Well, we want to show you how he deals with them. Yep, there you go. That's Sounds of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel from the great movie Mrs. Robinson.
I don't think they ever thought their song would be used for something presidential, but
Pretty sure they never did. And
we just did it.
Hey, they may sue us for using it, but I think we're under the limit on the time that we did.
We were talking news.
Yeah, that's right. Be sure to leave any questions that you may have we didn't get to. Leave them in the comments section. And of course, we hope you subscribe, hit the notification bell. And we always want to say thanks for joining us. We've got a very incredible show this weekend, and I'm very, very pleased. We're going to have a guy who 1 week ago, right this week, a week ago, he was running from bullets in Ukraine. He is in our theater tonight as we tape our show that will air this weekend. Here is a little preview of why you will want to watch.
This week on Huckabee, Bob Thomas' harrowing escape from Ukraine, the Family Research Council's Tony Perkins, New York Post columnist Carol Markowitz, and the incredible Music City Strings performs. Watch Huckabee on Saturday at 8, 7 Central, and again on Sunday at 9, 8 Central, right here on TBN.